The discovery of a tunnel under an ancient Egyptian temple was the tomb of Cleopatra found in the area of an ancient temple in the Abu Sur region near Alexandria. Ali found a wide tunnel under the temple, which he believes may lead to the place where the ancient Egyptian Queen Cleopatra was buried. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities said in a statement posted on its Facebook account that the Egyptian Dominican Archaeological Mission of the University of San Domingo, headed by Kathleen Martins, succeeded in discovering a tunnel carved into the rock at a depth of about 13 meters below the surface of the earth, during the archaeological excavations of the mission in the area of the Taposiris Temple Magna, meaning, the tomb of Osiris the Great, west of Alexandria. The ministry's statement quoted the Secretary-General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, Mustafa Waziri, as saying that the tunnel is about 1,305 meters long and about 2 meters high. Near the temple, 2 alabaster heads were found, one of which is of a person from the Ptolemaic era, and the other is likely to be a statue of Abu Sphinx. Kathleen Martins explained that preliminary studies indicate that the architectural design of the discovered tunnel is very similar to the design of the Eubalinos tunnel in Greece, but it is longer than it, describing it as an engineering miracle. She added that during the excavations and archaeological survey of the tunnel, a part of the tunnel sunk under the waters of the Mediterranean was discovered, and a number of pottery pots and ceramic jars were also found under the mud sediments, in addition to a rectangular block of limestone. Archaeological evidence that there is part of the foundations of the Taposiris Magna temple submerged underwater, which the mission is currently working to uncover. It is notewortdy that, according to scientific sources, no less than 23 earthquakes hit the Egyptian coast between the years 320 and 1303 AD, which led to the collapse of part of the Taposiris Magna temple and its sinking under the waves. It is worth noting that the mission, during previous seasons of excavations, was able to find many important artifacts inside the temple, including coins bearing the pictures and names of Queen Cleopatra and Alexander the Great, a number of headless statues, and statues of the goddess Isis, in addition to various inscriptions and busts. Shapes and sizes. Egypt is approaching the expected discovery. Tomb of Cleopatra and Antonio, a great French celebration of Champollion, and renewed controversy around it in Egypt. It also discovered a network of tunnels extending from Lake King Mariot to the Mediterranean Sea, and 16 burials inside tombs carved into the rock that were commonly used in the Greek and Roman eras, in addition to a number of mummies that highlight the features of the mummification process during the Greek and Roman eras. According to foreign press reports, Martinez said that at the time the tunnel was built, the population of Taposiris was between 15,000 and 20,000, noting that the tunnel was built under a temple honoring Osiris, an ancient Egyptian god of the underworld, and Isis, an Egyptian goddess who was the wife of Osiris. According to foreign media reports, a rock-carved tunnel considered an engineering miracle was discovered at a depth of 43 feet under an ancient temple that may lead to a long-lost burial site for the last pharaoh to rule Egypt, that is, Cleopatra, and her lover, Mark Antony. Who owns the Mask of Tutankhamun? 2 archaeologists answer Egypt. Restoration of the house of the discoverer of Tutankhamun's tomb. Archaeologists working at a site in Egypt believe they have found the tunnel leading to Cleopatra's tomb. Theories indicate that she was buried under the temple of Taposiris Magna, near the ancient capital of Alexandria. The tunnel is carved through layers of rock and extends over 4,800 feet and is 6 feet high. Martinez said finding the ancient queen's tomb would be the most important discovery of the 21st century. If there is a 1% chance that the last Egyptian queen is buried there, it is my duty to look for her, Martinez told Heritage Key. This is the first time that any archaeologist has found underground tunnels and passages within the walls of the temple, so we have changed what they knew about engineering forever, she added. The archaeologist believes that after Mark Antony killed himself after his defeat by Caesar Augustus, also known as Octavian, Cleopatra made elaborate plans for the 2 of them to be buried there, in echoes of the myth of Isis and Osiris. Martinez, who has been working at the Temple of Osiris Magna for more than 15 years, told National Geographic, Cleopatra negotiated with Octavian to allow her to bury Mark Antony in Egypt. She wanted to be buried with him because she wanted to reenact the myth of Isis and Osiris, noting that the true meaning of Osiris worship is that it grants immortality. It is believed that after their death, the gods allowed Cleopatra to live with Antony in another form of existence, so that they would have eternal life together. 2 years ago, the team reported the discovery of mummies of 2 high-ranking ancient Egyptians, one male and the other female, and the mummies remained undisturbed for 2,000 years, but in poor condition in terms of preservation because water had seeped into the tomb, but they were originally covered with gold leaf. A luxury reserved only for elite members of society, suggesting they personally interacted with Cleopatra. Nefertiti, which Hitler loved and caused a crisis between Egypt and Queen Cleopatra. She was the last in a long line of rulers of Ptolemaic Egypt, who were descended from the Greek general Alexander the Great. She ruled from 51 BC to 30 BC, until the day of her death. Cleopatra became Queen of Egypt and her title was Cleopatra VII, after the death of her father, Ptolemy XII, and her brother became King Ptolemy XIII at the same time. In order to establish herself and Antony as rulers in the minds of the Egyptian people, she also worked hard to associate themselves with the myth of Isis and Osiris. To gain support among the ancient Egyptians, Cleopatra was also declared the daughter of Ra, the Egyptian sun god. During her life, which spanned from 69 BC to 30 BC, Cleopatra was known as a charmer and as a captivating personality. She was famous for using her charms to seduce first Julius Caesar to cement Egypt's alliance with Rome, and then to seduce another man in command, Mark Antony. Mark Antony married another woman, Octavia, to mend a strained alliance with her brother, ruler Octavian. Antony later left his new wife for Cleopatra, according to the History Channel, and the two lovers then married, which violated Roman law forbidding Romans from marrying foreigners. Octavian declared war on Cleopatra and Antony, and defeated them both. Egypt. A new discovery dating back to the reign of King Ptolemy I. The death of Cleopatra and Antony. Cleopatra took refuge in the shrine she had ordered for herself, and her disappearance led to the belief that she had killed herself. Antony died in Cleopatra's arms after fatally stabbing himself because he thought his queen had killed herself. Cleopatra killed herself shortly after her lover succumbed to his wounds. Octavian returned to Italy where he became the first emperor of Rome, while Antony and Cleopatra were buried somewhere in Egypt. Cleopatra and the serpent. Cleopatra reportedly allowed a poisonous snake to bite her, which is doubtful. Ancient accounts tell of a serpent that was hidden inside a basket of figs brought from the countryside and used by the queen to commit suicide on August 12, 30 BC, as well as killing 2 of her servants. Academics rejected the popular view, arguing that Egypt's venomous snakes, such as cobras and vipers, were too big to sneak into the palace unseen. Although it is believed that the graves of the 2 lovers could be somewhere through the newly discovered tunnel, some doubts have been raised about the theory that Cleopatra and Antony were buried in the Temple of Osiris Magna. Other experts believe that Cleopatra was hastily buried in Alexandria itself, the city from which she ruled Egypt until her death in 30 BC, at the age of 39. But because Cleopatra and Antony worked so hard to connect themselves to the myth of Isis and Osiris, the Temple of Osiris Magna must have been closely linked to their life and death, others say. According to the myth of Isis and Osiris, Osiris was killed and his pieces scattered across Egypt. After finding all the pieces and making her husband whole again, Isis was able to revive him for a time. Martinez believes that Osiris Magna was closely related to the myth because the name means Tomb of Osiris. It may have been one of the places where his body was scattered in the story.